Good morning, everyone. This week, we're going to be speaking about fear not. Now, the Bible tells us to not fear at least 365 times. In other words, it's telling us fear not every single day. But what does it mean not to fear? I want us to unpack this concept of fear throughout the week and really understand what fear means and how we can be free from it. So the first thing you need to understand about fear is that fear is not just one big dustbin category. Fear actually exists on a continuum. Psychologically speaking, there is panic, which is fear within a moment of time. Fear that gets triggered when we perceive a threat, a danger in our environment. So, for example, if we see something dangerous heading towards us, what we are experiencing in that moment is panic, aka fear. But then that fear can go from a moment and become attached to us and begin to develop more of a phobia, more of a long-term permanent fear about something. And it's interesting because the Bible actually speaks about this in a number of ways. But it says this in Romans 8:15. It says this, "Or you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the spirit of adoption." You did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear. Now that's interesting to me. What it's telling us is that there is an actual spirit called the spirit of bondage that tries to attach itself to fear moments. And this is so true. Think about a moment in time where you have perhaps experienced an instant fear. And as you're experiencing that fear, you get ideas. You get ideas like, oh my goodness, you are losing control. You are not going to survive. You are running out. You are not loved. When we experience fear, this spirit of bondage can sometimes come along and whisper things, create images, ideas, beliefs in our heart to get us to become attached to that fear moment. For example, if something has happened to you in a relationship and you experienced a fearful moment where someone rejected you and someone didn't want you and someone didn't like you, you can then quickly start to attach ideas to that moment of fear, like you're unlovable, you're unlikable, nobody wants you. And that can get in your heart. And over time, it goes for one moment in time, one conversation in time, and it can bond to you. It can stick to you. And that results in a proper spirit of fear down the line. And the Bible is telling us that we can be free from that spirit of bondage because of the spirit of adoption. And we're going to look more deeper into that concept throughout this week. But I also want to read this to you in Hebrews. It says something similar. Hebrews 2:15. It says, we are released, Jesus has released those who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. The gospel frees us from bondage, from that spirit of bondage. Now, we see this also with panic. With panic disorder, it's fascinating. There are a number of panic symptoms like increased heart rate, shortness of breath, dizziness, disorientation, blurry vision, etc., etc. And there are three ideas that keep trying to attach itself to those symptoms. 1, I'm losing control. 2, I'm dying. And 3, I'm going crazy. Can you see how the spirit of bondage is coming along and it's trying to whisper to the person in that moment, you're dying, you're losing control, something's going wrong. And the Bible's telling us that we can resist and reject that spirit of bondage. We had the right as believers to challenge whatever the spirit of bondage is trying to attach to a moment of fear. And in the trauma literature, we have the saying, don't take a moment and turn it into a lifetime. Turn it back into a moment. That's what the gospel is encouraging us to do as well. So we're going to unpack that throughout this week. But I want you to remember today that you do not have to bond anything to moments of fear. You can reject that in the name of Jesus. And remember, you're highly favored and you're deeply loved.